Welcome to the How of Business with your host, Henry Lopez, the podcast that helps you start, run, and grow your small business. And now, here is your host.
Welcome to this episode of the How of Business. This is Henry Lopez. My guest today is Bob House. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Henry. Great to be here.
Now, Bob is with us today to share his unique perspectives. He's got a lot of experience and background, as you'll see in a moment, but his perspectives on how you can buy and or sell a small business through an online marketplace like BizBuySell. A lot of you have probably heard of BizBuySell. I've used it myself to sell one of my businesses. And so what's the perspective? We've done a lot of episodes on buying and selling a business. This is a different perspective and the insights from someone who understands that platform. How are people using a platform or marketplace like BizBuySell? And so that's what we're going to chat about on this episode. To get more information about the How of Business, including the show notes page for this episode, and to learn more about my one-on-one and group coaching programs, just visit thehowofbusiness.com. I also encourage you to please subscribe to my show wherever you might be listening so you don't miss any future episodes. Let me tell you a little bit more about Bob. Robert A. House is the president of Business for Sale. He joined the company in 2012, and this company, the parent company called CoStar Group, the Business for Sale Marketplace websites, including BizBuySell.com, BizQuest.com, and FindAFranchise.com. They have other platforms that you would recognize as well, but Bob is the president of that group. And their websites represent the largest database for businesses for sale listings in the country. Also worldwide, they have a presence. But Bob has previously, though, served as the director of product management for allbusiness.com, a business resource website owned by Dun & Bradstreet. And before that, he served in digital marketing and product management leadership roles for early stage software companies and online community companies. Bob lives in the San Francisco, California area. Once again, Bob House, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I was curious, I was doing a research, at least from your LinkedIn site. If I got it right, you got a BS in electrical engineering and computer science. Is that right?
That's correct. A while back, but yes, that's my educational background at Berkeley, where I got my bachelor's.
What did you intend to do when you grew up back then?
Well, I started out in the hardware and computer design realm, and I did that for a few years, but I quickly saw that the future was in software, and that the roles for kind of computer design were going to be fewer than the roles in software development. So I did work for a few years building and designing computer systems, but then kind of transitioned into more of a software and business kind of career trajectory.
Mm-hmm. And fast forward to joining CoStar, what was it about the organization that attracted you and to this position?
Well, I've always, most of the theme through my career has been a lot of startup and early stage and entrepreneurial setting companies. And I always enjoyed working kind of in that startup arena and small business arena. In fact, prior to joining CoStar Group, I worked for allbusiness.com, which was acquired by Dun & Bradstreet, but it was a small business resource site and content site that still exists and had a bunch of information for how small business owners can build and grow their businesses. And in fact, we had a partnership with BizBuySell, which is how I became familiar with the website. And then I had an opportunity to join BizBuySell years later. But most of my career has, again, been in that software, small business. And I did have a stint as an entrepreneur myself where I ran a travel company for a few years.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So what I'm hearing is that you've leaned towards corporations that are very entrepreneurial as far as they're either run or organized. And I got to suspect that CoStar is that way with these different, I don't know if you call them divisions, but different groups where you have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit. Is that fair?
A CoStar Group, despite being 6,000 plus employees and
Right.
A couple billion in revenue, is one of the most entrepreneurial organizations I've worked at. Our CEO is incredibly entrepreneurial, and so yeah, it kind of pervades throughout the company, the culture of helping tap new markets and create value for customers.
Yeah. All right, since we're going to focus on one of, again, the many marketplaces or platforms or websites that people, I have heard of, certainly when you go through the list, let's concentrate on BizBuySell for our conversation. Would you give us the introduction, for those who may not have heard of it or may have heard of it but may not exactly know what it does? What is BizBuySell.com?
Yeah, BizBuySell is an online marketplace for buying and selling small businesses. So we have the most inventory. We have 65,000 listings that are posted to the platform over the course of any year. And we have the most traffic. Over 4 million sessions a month come to our network of sites where we distribute these listings. So BizBuySell is the main brand, but we also distribute the same listings through our sister site BizQuest, through another co-star site LoopNet, which is a commercial real estate for sale for lease website, and other partner sites, including the Wall Street Journal and other sites. So our network gets the most traffic, and as a result, we drive the most leads, and we drive a lot of transactions. We report on that quarterly in our insight report, and you can find that on our site or by just Googling BizBuySell Insight Report, and you can see all the activity and the businesses that are changing hands as reported in that report.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can find all kinds of content and tools and resources on the site to help you navigate whether you're from on the buy side or the sell side. And again, we're just this dynamic marketplace where you can find almost any kind of business. And there's just plenty to choose from in all parts of the country.
Let's look at it from the two sides of it, the buying of a business. And, I've used BizBuySell to look for businesses, potential businesses to buy. I have clients who have used it. Besides it being a listing, what are some of those other tools? And you mentioned, of course, resources to learn, but what else is there? Like, for example, the valuation component of it is something that's valuable, isn't it?
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, as a buyer, again, go to our learning center, which is on our site, and you can find all kinds of content and a guide to how to buy. But there's other tools and resources as well for buyers. So we have valuation resources. You can get a quick estimate of what these businesses, any business you're looking at, might be valued at, and they're typically traded as a multiple of kind of the profit that they generate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's free tools there to help with valuation. There's actually paid products. You can buy a comp report, which gives you some transaction data of actual sold businesses in the area and industry you're interested in. Um, and yeah, there's just a wealth of information there. But yeah, valuation is a key part of making these deals happen, and it's valuable. These resources are valuable on both sides of the equation.
Yeah. Exactly. From a seller perspective as well, what could I realistically be able to sell my business for? And that's such as I'm sure you've seen many times, Bob. That's one of the challenges I see. People can be, let's see, choose the right word here, can be a little unrealistic sometimes as to what their business might be worth, right? And so having that be in part based on the data helps a seller be realistic about what they might get on the market, right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a common thing that we've heard over the years is sellers always tend to think their business is worth more than the reality of what the market will bear. And that's understandable. They've spent maybe a lifetime, of sweat equity in building that business. And, a lot of times their identity and obviously it's their family and a second family in a lot of ways. So they do tend to value it quite highly, but the data helps them see, okay, this is what businesses actually trade for. And this data is based on, the data that business brokers report to our platform when they advertise a listing and then take it down. They report whether it's sold and what it's sold for, and what was the confirmed kind of profit and revenue profile of that company.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, we're able to derive the multiples of what these businesses trade for across every industry and every location.
Yeah. So you mentioned brokers. I want to jump to that point because, in my experience, you basically have, I don't know, three options. You can sell it yourself or negotiate the buy transaction on yourself, and that happens. Or you could go perhaps you could argue more traditional route of a business broker. And typically the model there that I've experienced is the broker gets paid a commission by the seller, not unlike in the real estate market, not always, but typically. Or now, of course, there have been for some time these platforms, but a broker and a platform or marketplace like BizBuySell are not necessarily mutually exclusive, right? Because you have brokers that might list businesses available through the marketplace.
Absolutely. I mean, business brokers represent a lot of the inventory that is on our platform. And, working with a business broker is and at least consulting with a business broker is in most sellers' interest if they've built a business of real value. The broker can serve a lot of valuable roles in that process, insulating you from the sale, helping you price the business appropriately, screening a lot of the buyers. A lot of people come to BizBuySell, but not all are qualified.
Right.
So there's a lot of work there.
And
So
the
yeah,
negotiation process, managing that, all of that.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of friction in the process, right? I mean, transferring
Right.
a business is not, like buying something, an impulse buy on Amazon. It's
Right.
the opposite end of the spectrum. There's a lot of due diligence and there's just a variety of friction points that a broker can help smooth the path for.
From a buyer's perspective, to list a business for sale, what does it cost me?
From a buyer's perspective or a seller's
Excuse me,
perspective?
a seller's perspective. Combine things. If I have a
Sure.
business to sell and I put it on BizBuySell, what does that cost me?
Well, again, it depends if you're going to, use a broker, in which case, they will advertise it on your behalf and,
Right.
you'll pay a commission when your business successfully sells. If you want to go the, sell it myself route, you can create a listing on BizBuySell and, it's quite affordable. I mean, you'll end up spending a few $100s and you'll end up, with a listing of, 3 or 6 months, most likely. And depending on the level of exposure you want, it's a few hundred to, maybe over $1,000 for that listing. But again, because it's for multiple months, and we know that it typically takes about 7 to 9 months to sell a business, looking at our data,
Mm-hmm.
um, that you'll have a good sense of if you're able to, find your buyer if you buy a 6-month listing.
And so you have different levels of listings, and depending on what I might need, from basic up to different levels from that, right?
That's right. So we have different exposure levels, which help get you more exposure and ultimately more leads. And the higher levels of the listings will sort you higher in the search results, and you'll end up with more people seeing your opportunity. But again, if you have a good business or in your market that is not super competitive, then you may not necessarily need to have that higher level. But anyway, yeah, you can buy 3 levels of exposure, and then we do have 3 different term lengths too: 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month, depending on how long you think it might take to find a buyer for your business.
Got it. On the buyer side, now I'll get that right.
Hmm.
There's no cost to me as a buyer who is searching the marketplace for a potential business, connecting with that potential seller, or they're a broker. There's no fee to me if I'm the buyer.
That's correct. It's free to search all of our inventory, all of our listings. And, we always recommend buyers create a free registered profile, because you can then save listings, you can create searches, save searches, you can set up alerts to be notified when businesses hit the platform that meet your criteria.
Mhm.
And that's all free. We do have a premium buyer program, which is called BizBuySell Edge, which gets you additional data and insights into the market and some additional features that may be of interest to you. But it's a nominal fee. It's like $20 a month, and it unlocks some advanced features. But it is free to search all the inventory on our site and contact those business representatives.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for giving us kind of the level set. This is what it is. And explaining to those who may not have experienced it before. I think anybody who's listening, if you're listening to this, you spend some time on the website and use it and search, and you'll see how valuable it can be. Even if it's if for me, I've used it sometimes. You see what other businesses like mine, when I'm doing research on a particular business that I might even be starting, I've used it just as a research platform in that regard as well. What else is out there? Who else is out there offering the same thing? What are those businesses potentially selling for? What are they highlighting in the way of their business features? And I've used it that way many times as well. let's talk about trends, in the time that you've been there and now with such emerging trends, especially technology like AI. What have you seen that has been significant over the last few years that has made it even more functional, this marketplace like BizBuySell?
Well, let me start, on the non-technology side, but just kind of market dynamics. I mean,
Hmm.
what we're seeing in general is that there's just a lot more interest in buying and selling a business
Agreed.
for a variety of reasons. It's a lot harder to start a business. You've started businesses, but it sounds like you've also sold businesses. I don't know if you've bought any businesses, but
I
it's
have, yeah.
all, yeah, it's easier to buy an existing business with customers and revenue and all the facilities and everything you need to generate an income than to start something from scratch. And I think that's starting to catch on, and a lot of entrepreneurs are seeing that. In fact, entrepreneurship through acquisition is now being taught in a lot of business schools, and there's a lot of graduates that are coming out of those with search funds and are looking for businesses to buy and grow versus start from scratch. Again, the success rates are much higher. So we're seeing that as a general trend, and there's a lot of money that's also been chasing deals, private equity and financial buyers who are looking to buy geographical reach or do vertical integration. And so there's certainly a lot of activity in that kind of financial buying sector. There's at the same time there's the tsunami of baby boomers, right, that own all these businesses that
Yep.
is coming and is showing up on the marketplace. So there's a lot more supply coming to market for people who are retiring and need to sell their businesses and whose children may not be interested in kind of continuing that legacy. So those are the kind of macro funds, and then I'd say in general there's a lot of interest on the buy side also from corporate people leaving corporate America through desire to they've got a nest egg and they've gained experience and they want to try their crack at being their own boss and building something that they can sell upon retirement versus just funding their 401k solely through their employer. So we see a lot of that as well. So we've because the process is so involved, and you've got business owners who don't necessarily know how to go about it, and buyers like again these corporate refugees who may not know how to go about it. We've really focused on increasing the tools and content and information to help educate folks on that process. So that's been a real focus of ours. Technology and AI is going to play a role, and we're working on some things that um, we're not really ready to talk about yet, but clearly it's going to play a role in a lot of areas, and our marketplace is no exception to that.
The point about more people being interested in buying a business is I see that myself, including myself and in my clients. If you would have talked to me, I don't know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I would have been much more the entrepreneur that says, no, I want to build it myself, make it all mine, my creation. I know what it is and what it isn't, but I am included, have come around to understanding the tremendous value of buying a business. You got to be careful, and I think that, to your point, the resources that you offer, and I think that is one of the components I think that has made it more realistic and more of a consideration is the knowledge, ability to learn, and the level of transparency that can exist that's facilitated through a platform, right? Because
Yep.
prior to, it had to be either you knew about somebody or you had to go through a broker, and that can be daunting or scary or intimidating, right? So this now the online platforms, not only the knowledge, but being able to do that, at least that first level of searching, I think has made it more accessible.
Absolutely. So, people have changed how they search for and find opportunity, right? And
Yep.
it's the same in real estate as well. I mean, we see this in other parts of CoStar, how people shop for homes is fundamentally different than it was, 20 years ago.
Right.
They all start online, and it's driven by the consumer, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
consumer goes out and finds out what they're interested in, and then they pull in the professionals to help them, um, you know, make the deal happen. Same is true in our space. In our space, we have the additional wrinkle of there's confidentiality concerns by the
Right.
sellers that they
Yeah.
don't want to, disclose that they're selling the business because they're worried about their employees quitting and all variety of factors, vendors changing their terms, et cetera, competitors taking advantage of that information. So the
Mhm.
listings tend to be blind ads, we call them. So
Yeah.
it describes the opportunity, but you won't necessarily know exactly what business is being sold until you get further enough in the deal and are qualified to show that you're a buyer with the financial resources and experience to be serious, and then you'll learn about the specific business.
Which I'll tell you, as a potential buyer, that it's frustrating. That part of it is frustrating. But I understand it, as you just explained it, because I've been on both sides of it. So to a potential buyer who goes in and says, well, this they're not sharing anything on the details, or none of the numbers are shared. So there's nothing there to make a decision for me if I evaluate it further. What do you say to someone like that as to how to get the most out of the platform?
Yeah, I think it's an education process. I do think we live in a world of transparency, particularly around other things that we search for where there's complete transparency. I think we probably can do a better job of educating buyers on how the process works and why it's important for the seller to uh, protect the confidentiality of the sale up to a certain point. Brokers are great in this, and that's why they play a valuable role, is they
Right.
do kind of help protect that confidentiality really well. So I think buyers understand that once they know why, and I think it is really about understanding why it's in that seller's interest. They need to protect their business value while they go through the process of selling it.
Mhm.
But you're getting enough information. You're getting the revenue picture, you're getting the profit picture, you're getting the key financials, you're getting the location roughly, you're getting the industry. There's enough there to say, yeah, this is the kind of business I'm looking for. Let me reach out. Let me go through the process of getting under an NDA, which is typically what happens. You have to say, I'm not going to talk about this business opportunity with anyone
Mhm.
while you explore it. And serious buyers understand that and go through that process all the time.
This is Henry Lopez with a brief break from this episode to share a special offer from our show sponsor and trusted service partner, Oostas. Oostas specializes in digital marketing services for small business, including websites, SEO, social media management, and pay-per-click advertising. You know how important it is to promote your business online, but the world of digital marketing can be confusing and expensive. That's why you need Oostas, a digital marketing company you can trust and who are dedicated to helping small business owners. I've had the pleasure of working with Oostas and their founder, Adam Kirk, for several years now, and they are my trusted service partner for websites and digital marketing. Oostas really understands that every business has distinct digital marketing needs. That's why they take a results-driven approach to all your digital marketing. They start with a comprehensive analysis of your business, your goals, and your target market, and then they develop a tailored digital marketing strategy that's designed to take you where you want to go online. Oostas is offering a special discount for the How a Business Podcast listeners. Just let them know you heard about Oostas on the How a Business Podcast. And you can schedule a no-obligation consultation with Oostas to see how they can help you with your website and digital marketing needs. To learn more and to take advantage of the special offer, please find a special link to Oostas on the show notes page for this episode at thehowabusiness.com. To that end, let's look at it from a seller's perspective and getting the most out of that listing on BizBuySell. What other best practices do you see? Some of them might be obvious, like images and so forth, but what are some of the things that make a listing stand out and be more successful than another?
That's a great question, and we've got articles and content we've developed over the years to kind of help this sellers. You got to create an attractive listing, right? And so you don't want to tell everything about the opportunity because then there's no reason to reach out. It is a lead generation platform. So you want to, paint the picture of the opportunity, but compel the buyer to want to reach out and learn more. So, but you need to be complete. I mean, you need to the financials need to be there. The key, the more complete the listing, the more engagement you get on it in terms of response.
Mhm.
So, things like a decent photo, and it doesn't have to be a photo of your actual business. Obviously, confidentiality is concerned, so you can use
Sure.
stock images to indicate the category.
Mhm.
But make sure it's not overpriced. That's a key thing that'll drive down response.
Okay.
And give them a reason to reach out. do spell check and write enough of a description to kind of paint a picture of the opportunity. Maybe you've only been operating, you haven't maximized the hours of operation. You might call that out. Hey, for the right buyer who can expand service hours, there's an opportunity. Or maybe you haven't tapped certain markets, and for the right buyer who could do that, there's opportunity. So again, you're trying to create a story of opportunity here, because that's what entrepreneurs are after.
Yeah, love that. I love that story of opportunity. And I love how you put it as a lead generation platform. And so it's about getting that attention, being truthful. It can't be a bait and switch, but understanding that what you're trying to do is get attention, attract somebody who might be interested, who says, "Tell me more." Right. And then that's where the process really begins. The
Exactly.
overpriced thing is a great one, because I think that sometimes it goes back to that sellers being delusional about what they're going to get. I've had conversations with people, well, let's just put it out there at a reach price and see if anybody bites. What I'm hearing is that in all likelihood hurts you, doesn't help you.
Yeah, it will hurt you. And here's another option, and this is common when you get to the larger businesses and those in the lower middle market. You don't have to put a price. People do look for that price, and they'll search by that, and you will get more exposure if you put an asking price. But you can just put the profit profile, either the EBITDA or SDE, cash flow we call
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
And sophisticated buyers, particularly for those bigger businesses, will search on those profiles.
I see.
And then you're not anchoring them in a certain price. It's what does that buyer think it's worth based on what it generates from a profit standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And that's generally how the lower middle market works. There's not prices put on those businesses.
Yeah, no, and I get it, because that also it serves as a qualifier, as if I'm understanding correctly, because you're going to have a more sophisticated, or somebody who's done a little bit more research. I mean it's sophisticated in that they've done it before, because it could still be a first time buyer, but they understand that they're looking at the core financials to determine what it might be worth.
Exactly.
Okay, we talked about how brokers work with the platforms. I understand that. You just shared some tips on how to get the most out of it from a listing. We talked about all the content that's there and how to leverage it as a buyer. Is there anything else that you thought I should have asked about as to how to use the platform, whether you're a buyer or a seller, that you see common, either a not a good way to use it, or a best practice that comes to mind?
Well, one thing maybe I'll call out is we do have a really great sell guide that we just updated for its 10th anniversary edition,
Mm,
which is very comprehensive look at the whole process of getting ready, not just selling your business, but actually preparing for the sale and
mhm.
starting ahead of time, because you really do want to think about this as a multi-year journey, ideally, because that's when you're going to get the most value. So you need to prepare for your business for sale. You have to prepare your financials. You need to extract yourself from the business so that others can run it without you. And so this is all covered in the book, how to kind of prepare for your exit. And then when you're actually going through the process of exiting, there's a bunch of worksheets and checklists and tools that will help you kind of navigate the process. So I did want to kind of call out that
Yeah,
resource, because it is freshly updated and I think quite valuable for owners thinking about an exit.
extremely valuable. In your particular experience and from those resources, are one or two things that stand out to you that a potential seller should be thinking about to get their business to be sellable?
I think it probably the two things would be, are they the business? Are they so intertwined with the operations that it'll be hard for a buyer to see how they could buy the business with all that knowledge kind of wrapped into that person who's leaving the business. So you have to build out a management team or processes that allow you to step away and the business to continue to run. So that's one thing. Um, the other is just the financials, and small business owners, they're running a business, and the last thing they are worried about is their books. But you do want to have a clean set of financials. 3 years of you might be running some expenses through the business that aren't essential to the business. Certainly business owners do this. At the end of the day, you're going to have to forecast what the business's profit is, taking out what you've been drawing out of the business. And that could be in terms of what you've been taking out for a salary, but also like cars that you've been expensing through the business, or other things that are common, because that's the recast of seller discretionary earnings that the value of the business is going to be based off of.
Right.
So spending time kind of getting your financial house in order is another key thing.
Yeah, I agree. Those are the two top things that I see and that I recommend as well. The financials is always a challenge, especially having the clean books. I think that applies to both sides. If you're a buyer looking at a business, we got to be very careful that we don't buy a business that's dependent on that owner. And when he or she walks out, there goes the majority of the business, right? Or how it's done. The recipe goes out with them, if you will. And I see people making that mistake, but it's such a critical thing to consider, both from making my business sellable and also to consider if you're looking to buy a business. So thanks for sharing that. So the question I was going to kind of wrap up with on the selling side of it, I've just asked, kind of where do I start getting my business ready for sale? And in my experience, Bob, I don't know about you, but that could take a couple of years worth of effort to get it there, right?
It can, and unfortunately, too often, business owners are kind of suddenly forced to sell
That's right.
through
That's right.
factors that they didn't anticipate. It could be a health issue, or a divorce, or a partner issue, or some kind of market disruption. So yeah, the better you kind of start thinking, the sooner you start thinking about this stuff, the better off you'll be. And just kind of always be ready, so that if you need to exit it at any point in time, you're already there. So yeah, those are common concerns, for owners looking to exit.
From a buyer, I think if I ask you, where do I start? It's educating yourself, taking advantage of those resources that you offer and that others offer to learn about, what do I look for? How do I do this? How does it work? But what would you add to that?
Yeah, we also have a buy guide that's also free to download. It's you can get it in PDF or ebook format. Just come to our site and register, and you can get that. I think for the buy side, though, it's even easier to get started, because you can, again, once you've registered, you can start saving listings and doing searches and setting up alerts, and just kind of stay on top of the market in your area, like what businesses are for sale in my area,
Yeah.
and start to explore them. And it's very easy to do, and you'll start to learn that way as well.
Yeah. I think the thing I always advise beyond that for people that are looking to buy a business is, do you have the credit worthiness and the capital? Because one of the biggest mistakes I see, Bob, is people think of the price of the business, but they don't always realize that doesn't come with working capital. That doesn't necessarily come with inventory, depending on the type of business. So there's an additional infusion of cash that needs to happen that sometimes people overlook. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And people should also be aware of, the financing, the purchase of the business,
Mm-hmm.
and how that typically works. So, seller financing, because interest rates have obviously come up quite a bit in the last year or two. And so, the cost of buying a business has gone up as a result. Now, sellers are adjusting for that reality, so they're having to come down and their price as a result as well. But it's typically, buyers want to see the seller have some skin in the deal post sale, and so it's most buyers are looking for some sort of seller financing, and that's common in like a 10% note, for 10% of the sale price, extended from the seller to the buyer. Now, sellers always don't want to give that because they're looking to move on, but
Right.
buyers are expecting it, and it is fairly common in this kind of environment. Banks like to see it too, because it shows that the seller is standing by the representation of the business. And so, it might be 10% down by the buyer, 10% seller note, and then 80%, loan, with SCBA backed loan. So, but yeah, then working capital and other cash, needed to operate the business is another consideration.
Yeah. Because I think most people don't realize that the cash in the bank usually doesn't transfer with the business. It's not usually an asset that's getting sold. But yeah, great point about the financing, because I think in my experience, seller financing is one of the great potential opportunities and advantages to buying an existing business. I've had everything from, none to 100% financing. It just depends on the situation, the type of business, and how motivated necessarily the seller might be.
Right, right.
Okay, we've touched on, I think, most of it, but is there anything that you wanted to add as to what you offer through the BizBuySell.com marketplace? Is there anything we left out?
Boy, I think we covered a lot. Yeah, again, I think I just again highlight the valuation resources. Come to our site and under sell a business, you'll see that we have a variety of valuation resources. So from a free ballpark to okay, let me see some comps to a service that will help you get a more specific valuation for your business. Again, business brokers do a lot in this area, and so like we have a large directory of brokers. Come find a broker. Search our broker directory, find a broker in your area, and reach out to them. And they can be a fantastic resource for you valuing your business and telling you a little bit about the market in your area.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I don't know that I even knew that I could go to bizbuysell.com for that. So thanks for highlighting that.
Yeah, there's thousands of brokers in our broker directory. It's the largest online. So it's the place to find a broker when, if you're an owner, and you should consult with a few brokers before you decide how you're going to proceed with your sale.
But since we're on that, you've got some experience there. What's one or two things I should look for in a broker to help me choose one?
Well, I think experience. Have they done deals? Have they done deals like yours? And if they've got a track record, they can highlight their deals on our platform, and you can see what sold businesses they've got. But you can also see what listings they're carrying and representing. Do they sell a lot of businesses? Are they focused on just a few? Are they focused on particular industries?
Mm-hmm.
The profile on our platform has all this too. They can describe what kind of specialties they have.
I see.
I always like to look for education and certification too. There are some industry associations that do training and education. The IBBA is the leading one, and they have a certified business intermediary certification. That'll be indicated on the profile for the broker on our platform as well. You just know that that broker has been subject to a higher level of kind of training and education than others who don't have that.
Yeah. And especially the mediation component, because I'm going to be, not the only thing, but one of the things I think is the advantage is to have them help with being that broker in the negotiation process.
Absolutely. I mean, deals fall apart for 1,000 reasons, and that's where the brokers really provide the value, is they keep the deals on track. So that, there's a lot of friction in the process,
Yeah, it can get emotionally charged, right?
Yep, absolutely. And particularly probably on the sell side,
Yes.
where there's more emotional attachment. The buyer's looking for something that works, and so they're more apt to walk away from something if it's not feeling right.
Mm-hmm. Got it. All right, excellent. We'll start to wrap it up. I'm always looking for a book recommendation. It's a book that you would recommend to us.
Sure. Well, I've always thought that John Warrillow's "Built to Sell" is a great book on the the creating value in business ownership. So whether you're an owner who's thinking about exiting, it covers a lot of the topics we've discussed on this
It
podcast.
does. It does.
It really hits on them and everything and more. Or if you're a buyer, like how to build a business of value, and what's the next buyer going to look for in a business when you come to sell. So I think it's really written for owners, but I think it's valuable as a buyer as well to read that book and understand, okay, has this seller done these things? And if not everything, like how am I going to do these things so that I am creating something of value that I can sell someday?
Agreed. Great recommendation. I'll have a link to it on the show notes page for this episode at thehowofbusiness.com. All right, we'll wrap it up, Bob. What's one or two things at a high level that you want us to take away from, we've looked at it from both sides, buying, selling, either one, using a marketplace like BizBuySell. What's one thing you want us to take away from this conversation?
Well, I think for the listeners, the one thing I want them to take away is buy and build, don't start a business. Starting a business is hard. There's a lot of the greatest success stories in American business were not started from scratch. Ray Kroc did not start McDonald's. Howard Schultz did not start Starbucks, but they found something, they bought it, and they built it into, one of the some of the world-class brands that we know today. So you don't have to start. You can find somebody who started something already, have trained employees, and a base to start from. Customers are already used to coming and buying that product, and you can build from there.
One thing we didn't touch on, for example, is in my experience, obtaining financing is usually easier when you can show a track record, when I can show financials of a business that has been successful for a period of time. So there's another advantage. But
Absolutely.
beyond what we've talked about, just to expand on this for a moment, when you talk to people who are looking at starting a business, usually we use that term, start a business. What do you think it is that's part of that resistance that I say we generally have to thinking the only route is to build our own?
I think it's part of the American dialogue and dream of so much in the media of, companies that have started from nothing and become these great success stories. And so it's just it's like owning a home. It's like part of the American dream is to start your own business and
Right.
grow it into this, great, wonderful, but so few people are successful at that. Whereas many more people can be successful at buying something that's already
Mhm.
has a track record and building on it.
It's an interesting thing about our psyche, right? It's almost like a sense of authorship thing. Is I only have I created myself with my bare hands. Is
Hmm.
that the right way to go? And it's such an interesting thing. But anyway, can talk about that for hours. Thanks for sharing your thoughts on that. All right.
Sure.
I'm assuming bizbuysell.com is where you'd like us to go, obviously for the marketplace, but also for the resources that you mentioned.
Absolutely. You can find everything there. And again, I always love to point people to our insight report. We publish this quarterly. If you just want to know what's going on in the marketplace, it's again, they're under tools and advice in our navigation, market insights, but it's a great place to start too, whether you're a buyer or seller, just to see what's going on in the marketplace from a macro standpoint.
Very insightful. Again, I've used it just in doing general research because it gives you that insight as to what's going on. Yeah.
Yep,
I'll have a link to it as well. And again, it's in the tools and advice section when you go to bizbuy.com, correct?
that's correct. Yeah,
BizBuySell.com rather. Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah, and you can see, multiples there as well. So it's another
Hmm.
way to get a quick sense of valuations.
Yeah. Excellent, Bob. Thank you so much for being with me today, sharing all this information. Took some great learnings here. Thanks for taking the time to be with me today.
Hey, it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me again.
This is Henry Lopez, and thanks for joining me on this episode of The How of Business. My guest today is Bob House. I release new episodes every Monday morning. You can find the show anywhere you listen to podcasts, including the How of Business YouTube channel and my website, thehowofbusiness.com. Thanks again for listening.
Thank you for listening to The How of Business. For more information about our coaching programs, online courses, show notes pages, links, and other resources, please visit thehowofbusiness.com.